Committee, welcome to the Standards Committee meeting this morning. Could I start, please, just by commencing with a few housekeeping issues. This meeting is being live streamed on the internet and recorded for archive purposes. During the meeting, would members and officers please switch your microphones off until called by the chairman to speak? Should you wish to speak, would you please use the raise your hand function in Teams? However, if your raise your hand function is not working for any reason, please indicate on screen your wish to speak by raising your hand on screen or by using the chat facility. However, we do ask you please limit the use of the chat facility, because if you have any audio or camera issues, as the public are unable to see the chat facility, as all discussions relating to the agenda should be voiced on screen. Should you have any technical difficulties during the meeting, please contact the Democratic Services Officer separately during the meeting on the telephone number I have already given you. I have also noted that a member has mentioned in the chat that the recording is not taking place. It is actually being recorded via YouTube anyway, so it's going up, and we will be recording it in Teams just in case there are any issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So the first item of the agenda is appointment of chairman, as this is the first meeting of the municipal year. So may I have nominations for the appointment of chairman, please? Gerwin Watkins.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I propose the reappointment of Richard Endicott.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Yes, I can see Lorna Tinsley's hand up. That's the seconder. Thank you very much. Are there any further nominations? No. Is everybody in agreement with Richard Endicott to be reappointed as chairman? There we are. Thank you. Richard, I'll hand over to yourself if you wish at this point, albeit if you'd like, I'll take the next item and then we can deal with the remainder of the meeting via the vice chairman. But I'll give you that option at this stage.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for your vote of confidence. I'm happy to continue as chairman, but I would prefer not to chair this meeting. I don't know how much information you've been given, but basically at the end of April I was taken into Bridgend Hospital with a burst appendix, and on the 1st of May I was operated on a Saturday. I was sedated for 12 hours and in ICU, etc., etc. So I came out after, I think, 9 days. So I'm on the mend, but I would prefer, I did indicate that I would prefer not to chair this meeting, but to allow somebody else to do so. So if that's all right, and again, thank you very much. I hopefully can continue as chair at the next meeting.
Many thanks. And on behalf of the committee, best wishes for a speedy recovery. So the second item on the agenda is the appointment of vice chairman. If I could have nominations, please. Mr. Watkins?
Yes, I propose reappointment of Lorna Tinsley.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded? Yes, seconded by a number of members. Are there any other nominations? No, is that agreed? Thank you very much, Lorna. You're appointed the vice chairman, and at this stage, if you'd like to take over chairing the meeting, given the current circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for that reappointment vote. Indeed. So, having concluded items 1 and 2, apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies for absence?
Chair, just to let you know that Mr. Alexander has said he's hoping to join the meeting. He has a prior meeting at 9 o'clock, but he is hoping to join, so he may join at any time.
Thank you, that's helpful. And then to move to item number 4, the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of March. Do you wish me to go through page by page, or is there any items that we want to raise in relation to those minutes? I'm seeing lots of shaking of heads. I think those minutes are therefore agreed. There doesn't appear to be any difficulties with them.
Thank you.
And then item 5, my goodness, we are moving at pace this morning. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in relation to this meeting, please? No? Thank you. So, having concluded items 1 to 5, we can move back to item 6, application for dispensation, please. We've received one request for dispensation. Just go to that page.
Mrs. Tinsley, would you like me to take you through this
application?
Would you like me to take you through the application?
Would you please? Yes, that'd be helpful.
Absolutely. So this is an application from a community councillor, David Sylvester. He has indicated that he won't be attending this morning, and would like the matter to be considered without his attendance. You'll see from the application that initially he refers to an application to speak on matters relating to the playing fields, as he's a member of the Surrey Centurion Cricket Club. And then later on the first page of the application, he is referring to an application to speak and vote. Preferably, he'd like to speak and vote, but as he refers to on the application, he'd accept to be granted a dispensation to speak only. Before I just run through some of the key points of his application, you'll also note that he's kindly also attached a copy of a letter that he received in 2005 when he submitted a similar application to the Standards Committee and was granted a dispensation to speak only. So that relates to 2005. And very briefly, because the application form does cover off the key points for members' consideration, it's important to note that the Surrey Centurions Cricket Club use community council land, so a community council facility that will be under a legal arrangement, and as you'd expect, then there will be reports submitted from time to time to the community council on matters such as fees and those legal arrangements. The grounds which Community Councillor Sylvester is making his application is under grounds D and F, and those details are set out in the report. I would suggest for members to consider granting an application to speak only, given the fact that there will be those matters considered by the community council, albeit I think there is merit for the individual member, as he's indicated, to share some of his expertise and experience with the dealings with the club, and that might assist the community council in making their deliberations. But it is a matter for the committee, and unless there are any further questions of me, I'll hand over to Mrs. Tinsley.
Thank you for that. Just to be clear then, your recommendation would be to agree speaking only.
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Anybody want to make any comment on that recommendation or this application? Are we happy to move to agreeing for speaking only? I've seen lots of nods of heads. I think you can take it that is agreed, that it's an agreement to speak only, accepting the proposals that have been put forward. However, the decision is for speaking only, not for voting. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Then on the grounds given, yes, we agree. We agree. Speak only. Okay. What have we got next? So, feedback reports. Now, I don't have a list of who's attended any meetings, So can I have a volunteer who'd like to go first, please? Mrs. Hallett, please. Mrs. Hallett, you're on mute, I'm afraid. No, still on mute.
Okay.
Yes, great.
Can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I'm glad you're feeling better, Richard. I attended a meeting at Llandoch Community Council on the 20th of May. It was a very good meeting. The agenda and papers were forwarded to me together with reports relating to the agenda items. The minutes and the agenda are accessible on the council's website, but the copies of the reports weren't. And I think it would be useful if the reports could be made available, as they provided an understanding of the issues being discussed. The council might wish to consider this. They were very good reports and they were relevant. The criteria relevant to the observation checklist to the meeting was fully complied with, and this was evidenced by the way the committee members responded when voting and when there was a declaration of interest made. It was very smooth when the councillor actually said, I have a declaration, he declared it, he went out with no prompting, and then he was phoned to come back into the room. It was all very smooth and well run. And I found very good as well was the chair. The chair, supported by the clerk, ensured that there was full discussions, but kept the committee's discussions focused on the matters at hand. So the minds were focused, and it was very good, smooth talking, particularly about the issue under debate. And this made for good time management of the agenda and enabled the meeting to finish in time with the finishing time shown on the agenda, which I thought was very good and was also an expectation of the councillors. The committee members were friendly, they were courteous to each other and behaved in a very professional manner. I would sum up by saying that this was a well-organised and well-managed community meeting and one of the best. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please, if you could go in, that would be helpful.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. I attended the annual meeting of the Pendoilan Council on the 20th of May. It had been intended to hold this as a live meeting, but they had to revert to a virtual meeting at the last moment. I was admitted promptly and welcomed. I could identify, I could hear all the participants. The first part of the meeting was an open forum. There was a member of the public present. He had a query about a locally cited defibrillator. He was given a full and detailed answer to his queries. The tone of the meeting was light and businesslike. All the members contributed fully, but they didn't talk across one another. This is a council that has clearly had major issues to deal with, such as the Junction 34 M4 link road. There are narrow lanes in the area with speeding problems. There are some sensitive planning applications. My lasting impression was of a council whose members are working in harmony together for the benefit of the community they serve. I thought the whole meeting was very positive.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? I think then I have one report. I attended an observation meeting. It was extremely well run. There really is nothing to report in any way adversely. It was chaired by the same clerk had previously chaired a previous meeting of another community councillor I'd also attended, so obviously a very busy person, and there literally is nothing to report back in any way other than extremely well done. So with that, if there's no further reports, I think there may be some Karen, I don't know if you want to raise it now in terms of the two meetings, just to let people know you're going to email out.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to let you know that we have now completed with all the ones that are that you've already agreed, members have agreed to attend coming forward. We will have completed 23 Town and Community Council visits, albeit we might have done one or two more because of issues that might have been raised in the past. There are 3 outstanding, which we are working with. One of the community councils is in the middle of sending us the dates because they weren't available on the website. We have one community council who was asked, can we visit in September because they haven't got a clerk at the moment. So we've agreed to do that. And what I will do is I will let all of you know the dates for the next ones that are coming up, and then obviously I will ask whichever member would like to attend any of those, and then we will have completed the 26 hopefully by September in this year. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Karen. That's great. Debbie, could we move to item number 8 then, the meetings with clerk of town and community councils?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. This is an information report, as I've set out in the paper back in 2019, seems a long time ago now. You'll recall that I commenced having meetings with the agreement of the Standards Committee as part of the role of Standards Committee to hold monitoring officer meetings with the Town and Community Council clerks. So all Town and Community Council clerks are invited to those meetings. They went well initially, insofar as we managed to hold 2 in 2019, and they were positively received. And then, of course, we had the COVID pandemic, so there was a slight pause in those meetings, but they have restarted again now. And we had the first meeting since 2019 on the 19th of May. So there were 10 clerks to the Town and Community Councils that attended the meeting. It was a very positive meeting with a lot of engagement with those that attended and some very positive feedback. The attendees were very grateful for the meeting, for the opportunity to be briefed on matters and also to share experiences. So they use it as a forum that if they are experiencing any particular difficulties, they can raise them and them with colleagues and find solutions. So very positively received, and they're very keen that we continue as we intended back in 2019 to hold meetings on a 6-monthly basis. So we'll be doing that. The items which we discussed at the 19th of May meeting, I've given you a flavour at paragraph 2.3 of the report. So we ran through the generic observations that yourselves, the independent members, have kindly provided when observing meetings. So as you know, we provide the detailed response on a one-to-one to the clerks following your observations and sharing them with Standards Committee. But obviously there are a number of generic points which I felt that all Town and Community Council clerks could benefit from. So we used that opportunity. So since the October meeting, I think it was October in 2019, I've run through with all of those in attendance the key learning points, and we've also captured those in the minutes. So for those that were not able to attend, they will see those when they have the opportunity to read the minutes. So we've highlighted some of the best practice which has been observed and some of those areas where the independent members feel that there is some scope for improvement. So we've worked through those and we've discussed those and explained, and that's been very positively received. We've also had one new clerk join the group, having recently been appointed, so it gave an opportunity to run through the intention behind the observations and obviously bring that individual clerk up to speed. And obviously we've shared the pro forma with the clerk, so they're aware of what independent members are particularly observing, so that she can be cited on that and again assist with her individual community council to sort of assist with driving up standards. So very positively received. We've also talked about the dates of the pending visits so that everybody is aware of who will be attending and when. And also we had a very good discussion on the Local Government and Elections Wales Act. So the report that was taken to the Community Liaison Committee was shared. We talked about the general power of competence, which was a point of particular interest to those attending, and we discussed also the provisions in the Act about the eligible community councils, so that those which would be able to apply the general powers of competence within their individual community councils. And I also shared an action plan that we'd shared with the Community Liaison Committee, which is a live document that we're updating on a regular basis as officers within the council, with an agreement to share that with the individual clerks as we progress, because there are certain elements of the legislation which have yet to be introduced. So it was felt that would assist the clerks to have that that information as it comes through from Welsh Government. So all in all, a really positive meeting. I also used the opportunity to update the clerks on the consultation that had been undertaken by the Ombudsman, which had come before Standards Committee, on the guidance to community councils on the Members' Code of Conduct, which has now been published. So I was able to brief them on that, and we've now also shared with the clerks that finalised document, so that they are cited on that. So all in all, really positive meeting, and picking up on a point that Councillor Robertson raised at the last Standards Committee, I will also be taking forward to the Vale Council's next Community Liaison Committee a paper with regards to the work being done by the independent members observing the Town and Community Council. So again, it's another opportunity of just sharing the work that's being done of the by the Standards Committee, and highlighting those particular aspects which are of particular importance when we're ensuring high standards by town and community councils. So unless there are any further questions, I'll hand back to yourself.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson, did you want to raise a matter?
Yeah, thanks for that, Debbie. That's very helpful, and I'm sure the clerks who attended found it very helpful. I do note that the clerks that attended, all the community councils that were represented at that meeting, haven't been itemised. Is there any particular reason for that? For instance, I'm not aware whether the clerk of Dinas Paris or the deputy clerk of Dinas Paris attended that meeting. So it might be useful if for the individual community councils to know that their clerks actually had attended or had not attended. I mean, there's some obviously some very important points being raised there. So it'd be useful for community councils to know that their clerks have been brought up to the speed on them.
Chair, shall I comment at that stage? I can advise that Bogda was in attendance, so I'm very pleased to say that she was there, and indeed she is a regular attendee. I don't think she's missed one, and she does contribute during the meeting. So yes, I can reassure you on that in that respect. And certainly as we go forward, I'll certainly share the attendees list, and outside this meeting I'll also share for members of this committee the minutes of the meeting as well, so that you can have sight of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cuddy?
Yes, hi. I noticed you mentioned the local government and elections bill, or now an act, sorry. One thing, an issue I imagine may have been raised is the criteria for gaining GPOC, which is quite an extensive training regime. It applies both to councillors who have to do and a strategy has to be developed, but it applies particularly to clerks who have to go do training. SILCA, it's called, I think, under the SLCC. When that was initially discussed in One Voice Wales, there was quite a lot of concern amongst clerks that they didn't want to do that, especially long-standing experience. They felt it was a bit of an imposition, and it is an issue, especially amongst, I imagine, small councils which have, the hours they work is very small, really. And this training is, I think, it's fairly demanding in terms of time. I know it's demanding in terms of other things, but I wonder if that was raised at the meeting. You say, Debbie, it was. They were all very, very positive. I imagine they've all sort of rode in on to get GPOC. We've got to get trained, and we'll do other great things. You've got anything to say on that?
Chair, through yourself, yes, we did discuss that in detail, and that was one of the key points that we looked at. So I worked through the provisions of Section 30 of the Act to ensure that everybody was familiar with those provisions and the conditions upon town and community councils to be able to trigger and adopt the GPOC provisions. So everybody was cited on that during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cuddy, do you want to come back on that? Are you satisfied? You're on mute.
I'm surprised there wasn't sort of some a comment that, well, I don't want to do it, because I'd only spend, half a day or whatever a month. It's something I won't do. You had no sort of people with those sort of negative comments. So.
I'm just looking at the minutes. Everybody was fairly positive, well, very positive at the meeting. I'm just looking, just as an aid memoir. A number of the clerks had advised that they'd also attended a recent training session with One Voice Wales when GPOC had been discussed. And also with regards to obviously the impact or potential benefits of GPOC. I highlighted also that further regulations were anticipated. I think it's fair to say that they recognised that it was onerous and that a number would not be able to satisfy the requirements. So I wouldn't say that anybody was negative. It was just an acknowledgement that the provisions would be difficult for a number to satisfy. I think that's a fair summary of the discussion. Karen was also at the meeting. I think that's a fair assessment of the discussion, unless there was anything further that you can recall, Karen, at the meeting.
I do recall one or two of them who actually did attend One Voice Wales saying that it was going to be, like you said, Debbie, considerably onerous, and it was whether or not smaller community councils would really have the impetus to do that, and obviously the time to do that, and what really the advantage would be. And I think in most cases they were thinking, let's wait for the regulations and see what the detail is about that, see what it actually means in detail. So I think it's a wait and see, really, for more detail from their point of view, because a number of the aspects, as Debbie's mentioned earlier, within the Act, we're still awaiting regulations and further detail on.
Yeah, I agree. We are meeting detail, but I mean, one issue, the sort of creative issue of this is that you can do trading and things like that as long as you sort of, all the benefits go back to the council. So there are opportunities which I don't think people have really explored very much. I was at a One Voice Wales SLCC meeting, conference, and it's quite interesting. Some of the case studies of what councils were doing, and they were in England, really, where they have the a well-being power, I think, which is a different one. How creative you can be if you once you get this GPOC. So I suppose it's the case of the local councils knowing that there are opportunities, and it's not just a negative imposition for to engender good behaviour or anything.
Okay, thank you. There's a matter I would like to raise, and that's in relation. Thank you for the offer of viewing the minutes of that meeting. I wondered if it would be helpful, given that we are over a 12-month into this process now, of having some summary document of the key learning points so that we can understand overall what the issues are that we've identified, both in terms of good practice and in terms of areas that we'd like to see improvement, just for us to review that at a suitable time annually perhaps, and then moving forward, if we can then benchmark against that as we move forward for the following year.
Yes, of course. Yes, we can certainly bring a report to committee in that regard.
Yeah. Nothing, not thousands of pages long, just a nice summary that we can have a quick look at and just benchmark against would be really good. Thank you for that. Right, if there's nothing further on that issue, item number 9, the appointment of chair for the local disputes resolution hearing. Debbie, do you want to deal with that?
Yes, this is a recommendation. In fact, there's a slight tweak to the recommendation as it appears in the papers. So this is seeking a recommendation that delegated powers be granted to the 3 members, and this will be 3 members at any given time, of a local dispute resolution procedure panel. So I just want to amend the wording from hearing to panel to appoint a chairman from amongst themselves prior to a hearing taking place. And the reason for that is that prior to a panel or any hearing, we do find, and I'm sure those with experience of panels will appreciate this, that there will be some procedural matters which it would assist in dealing with in advance of the actual day of the hearing, and in line with the council's local dispute resolution procedure, it does provide that the chairman will have the discretion to supplement or vary the procedure to be followed at the stage 3 hearing as deemed appropriate. So it is to facilitate a smooth running hearing, to give the opportunity to deal with, where appropriate and in line with officers' guidance, some procedural matters so that the hearing may proceed in a timely manner on the day designated for the hearing. So it is to provide that delegated authority, and just so that it'll be appreciated, as members will be aware, there is a matter which is shortly due to be heard. We do have the members designated as referred to in paragraph 2.2 of the report that will be on the panel, and so that's Mrs. Hallett, Mr. Watkins and yourself, Mrs. Tinsley. And so outside of this meeting, I think it would assist, and possibly if those members, if it's agreed by the committee, if those members could stay back at the end of this meeting, maybe we could deal with the appointment of chairman for that particular panel, as I say, so that we can just deal with some administrative procedural matters.
Any comments on that? No. Oh, Mr. Hendicott.
Yes, thank you. Perhaps I could add that I was going to chair this meeting prior to my operation, but I think it was due to be heard quite soon. So I decided that I couldn't do that, and certainly if it goes on for hours, it wasn't right that I did it. So that's why I pulled out. I think it's now been redated for sometime in June, hasn't it? But I'm more than happy that the three of you carry on and do it, and if you can pick a chairman between yourselves, that'll be fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mrs. Hallett, you're on mute. You're on mute still.
Am I okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can I just confirm with Debbie that the actual appointment of the chair is made by the 3 panel members? Is that the 3 panel people who have been appointed to the panel? Is that correct, Debbie?
Yes, through yourself, Mrs. Tinsley. Yes, that is.
So
is
it's not. So it's not actually the chair of the committee who actually makes the appointment to the chair of this panel.
No, under the procedure, it is the chair of the Standards Committee that designates which are the 3 members. It's a little bit convoluted, which are the 3 members that will be on the panel. So when we're deciding who will be on the panel, it is in consultation with the chair of the Standards Committee. But when we then move to the actual hearing that the panel will be dealing with, it will be a matter then for the 3 members on the panel then to decide the actual chairman. So as I say, it is a little bit convoluted, but that is in line with the procedure.
Okay, Debbie, just to recap that the appointment to the panels are on availability, obviously, because I realise there's a very few of us. Also, they are done in order so that everyone gets the opportunity in conjunction with discussions with the chair, though I'm not sure more involved with the chair there. And the appointment of the chairperson for that panel is decided by the members who are appointed to that panel.
Absolutely. And also, as members of the Standards Committee will be familiar, a report was brought, probably, if not the last meeting, the one before, whereby the committee agreed that a rota basis would be established when appointing to panels, so that all independent members and indeed when we're dealing with hearings, wider hearings from the Ombudsman, all members of the committee would have that opportunity and experience to sit on panels. So it's also having regard to that further resolution of the Standards Committee.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Any further comments on this matter? Do we agree then that to grant the delegated powers to the Independent Standards Committee panel members so that an appointment of chairman can take place with those panel members attending that panel? Yes. I'm looking for yeses. Yes, that is agreed. Thank you. Item number 10, correspondence with the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales. Debbie, back to you, I think.
Oh, thank you very much. This is just for noting, and prior to me briefing yourselves, we will need to move into part 2 because it is confidential, but this is for transparency, just to highlight that as would be expected from time to time in respect of ongoing matters, there has been correspondence with the Ombudsman's office, and I'll brief the members of the Standards Committee under part 2. So at this stage, this report is just for noting.
Thank you, Debbie. Item number 11, I haven't been made aware of any items that are urgent in part 1. So that being said, if there aren't any, and there shouldn't be any, we are prepared to move to part 2. Karen?
Yeah, Chair,
yes.
I move part 2.
And if that's agreed, we can then move into part 2 and hand over to Karen to confirm when we can proceed with dealing with the report.